I would now give the word to the floor for some questions. If there's someone who'd like to ask anything. If you want to ask in Portuguese to Mark, I can translate.
Is there a microphone so everyone can hear? Here we are.
Hello. Okay. Yes, my name is Matthias Fischer. I am German, actually. And actually, there's no other country in Europe which is doing so much for Portugal right now like Germany. We pay each year more than we ever received by the Marshall Plan into the European funds. 11 billion, basically. Number one. Number two, we are the first guarantor of all the rescue funds, 27%. And the funds we are guaranteeing already are more than the whole federal budget of Germany. And of course, this is making us quite dizzy in the country already, guaranteeing so much money for our European partners. Number three, the commercial surplus, trade surplus. What can we do? The Germans and the customers basically choose what they think best. It is a choice of quality. The best quality products are being sold. And let me tell you that the trade surplus within Europe is actually decreasing. It's getting down. And with Portugal already, it is almost in an equilibrium. It is almost balanced because Portuguese exports are very good and Portugal has very good goods that it is exporting to Germany. But once again, it is a customer's choice. If they prefer a BMW to a Toyota, it's their decision. Number four, the London Agreement. The London Agreement was not on debt. It was on reparations, on Versailles Treaty reparations. Now, what is the difference? In international law, the victor countries impose reparations on the country that has lost the war. And these were, in effect, as you said, reduced by half. It's not debt. Again, it's reparations because debt, you choose yourself if you want to have them or not. Thank you.
Sir. Excuse me, are you a member of the embassy? That's what I thought.
Mais alguma pergunta que queiram fazer? Aqui, por favor.
Sorry, just two questions. To Professor César das Neves, you say that the issue is not cure, is disease. My question is the disease curable? That's the issue. The issue. Can we do anything to stop this being destroyed? That's the point in my view. I would not discuss getting out of Europe.
Thank you. Maybe we'll have some more questions and then ask for a comment here from our panel. Anyone else? I think
everyone's waiting for lunch.
O que eu gostava de saber é se
posso pedir que se apresente, por favor?
Diga?
Se posso pedir que se apresente, por favor?
Não percebo.
Se pode apresentar.
Carlos Lourenço Fernandes.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. Eu gostava de saber se houver uma iniciativa de investimento que busca em Portugal o licenciamento de uma marina, o tempo médio de obtenção dessa licença anda à volta de 15 anos. Se em Portugal uma atividade industrial quiser ampliar um edifício para dar consequência à necessidade de expansão, o tempo médio de licenciamento é 7 anos. Eu gostava de saber se isto é o reino do liberalismo e se é o reino do poder dos mercados.
Obrigado. So, Mark, this last question was basically about lots of bureaucracy in the Portuguese economy, which is a problem that we face. So we have some comments, not all questions, but one is if the disease is curable. The other one is this, let's put it, not the Treasury view, but the German's view on the problem. And then these questions of bureaucracy, which links to, well, structural problems in the economy and the inability to grow. Maybe I would ask you to make a comment, and then I will finish asking our other members of the panel to comment.
Are there solutions? Yes, there are solutions, and given my diagnosis, and again, this is just my diagnosis, it begins and ends with the banking treaty and not squeezing budgets counterproductively so you end up with more debt rather than less. It's very simple. In response to the German gentleman, I have an interview in Der Spiegel a month ago, you may want to have a look at, which is called Deutschland schafft das nicht. Germany can't do this on their own. They're not big enough to act like the United States. They can't solve the problem of a banking system which is multiple times the size of the German economy, 10 times the size of the German economy, in fact. And then, so that side, Germany cannot do that alone. But it's not helping itself in the sense that, yes, those guarantees are there and they're incredibly important, and you don't have to do that, and that's right, and that should be recognized. But if you are basically going to run a surplus because everybody wants the BMWs, let's recognize two things. First one is you don't just export BMWs. You export all the other stuff that people could make too, because effectively the euro is an undervalued exchange rate for Germany. You're really good right across the board. Even the crap stuff you make sells well. So this is very hard for everybody to compete against. And if the rules are rigged whereby you get to run a 6% surplus and you're only allowed a 3% deficit, that has to show up in someone else's unemployment. You're basically exporting unemployment in order to run the surplus. I love Germany. I live there. I'm married to a German. I have investment in the country. I only want this to end well. So please understand, I'm not blaming Germany. I understand the limits. But I don't think that the country is helping itself by insisting on rules which are ultimately counterproductive.
Thank you, Mark. Ricardo, would you like to make any comment? Okay. Professor Francisco Louçã. Professor César das Neves, I believe you were directly asked.
Just two brief things. The first one is, if I'm right and the disease is suspicion and not so much the banking sector, we have to understand that the disease is much harder to cure than the one everybody's talking about. It's much easier to fix the banking sector than to eliminate suspicions and lack of trust. About the specific question, I would say it's very hard for me to say if it is curable. If it isn't, then we are in a disaster like we had in the previous century. But my point is, I don't know if it is curable. I know what I have to do, what I can do, what we should do, each one. Because someday, when people look at this period, I'd like to know if I'm part of the solution or part of the problem. So someday we'll ask you if we were active in this period, like we now ask to the ones who created the problem, if they were part of the solution or part of the problem. And so I think that the problem is suspicion, and I'm trying as hard as I can to be a positive contribution to that.
Thank you. Professor João Ferreira do Amaral, would you like to add anything else? Professor Teodora Cardoso, I believe you had some comments there on your own comments. Would you like to elaborate on that a bit?
Not necessarily on my own comments, but on some things that were said and I think are very important. One had to do with that, mainly the second graph that you presented, and that is really one of our big problems, that we still are a very low qualification economy. This is not a European problem, as Mark said very well. This is a problem of our own, as well as the problem of regulation and the licensing and things like that. Europe has nothing to do with that. It has to do with us. And if anything, Europe helps us, financed us with cohesion funds, structural funds, and credit, in order to improve our productive structure, our qualifications. We did improve education, but we were not able to translate that improvement into qualified employment. Because we turned, as João Ferreira do Amaral mentioned, we turned to domestic demand, investment in the domestic market, in low qualification investment. We need to attract investment in high qualification activities, and for that we need not so much financing, because that investment brings financing with it, but we need friendly regulation. We need to give up a lot of bureaucracy that is completely useless and spends a lot of money. And we need to do things like, for example, stabilize taxes. This is a problem that has to do with confidence, in the words of João César das Neves. One of the factors that creates confidence for investment is to know that taxes are reasonably foreseeable. And in our case, taxes keep changing in all sorts of ways, and it's not so much the tax rates themselves, is the way that you, the difficulties and the problems you have to pay taxes. So these are things that depend exclusively on us, and that can help, certainly, the economy go up in that scale of qualification that will create income for us to spend public expenditures that we want to make. So this is my main comment.
Ricardo, you were asking to, please.
Now I want to say something. I will not have time, and we will not have time to discuss this today, but I think this is probably one of the most important issues concerning our common future. I want to say that I totally disagree with the idea that we haven't done enough to change the second graph I showed. I want to be very clear about this. I totally disagree with the idea that Portugal has not been done the correct policies. I'm not trying to say that we have done well in our fiscal policy. I'm not trying to say that we have done well in many other in many other domains of economic policy. I'm not even saying that we have been perfect in what you could call innovation policy or education and training policies. But I've been working on the monitoring and evaluation of the use of European funds in Portugal in the last 6 years. And I've been doing that professionally, full-time job, and with a comparative perspectives. I have no doubt today that we heard stories about we spend lots of money in roads. Do you have any idea that Portugal is the country in all Europe that spent more money in the last 10 years, that spent the highest proportion of European funds in education and training? Is the country that spent it more. Do you have any idea that Portugal is the country that invested more in innovation and R&D in relative terms? That means that catched up at the fastest pace in the last 10 years. I think most of the people ignore this. And the thing is, there is a limit to what good policies can do when the rules are wrong. We can try to improve the quality of our policy making, and this is one of my missions in life. This is one of my greatest concerns, is how to improve the quality of policy making. But make no mistakes, if we have the wrong rules, that will help us nothing. The problem of Europe is not the policy quality in different countries. I can point you 10 countries that have no fiscal problems, that have qualities of policies that are much worse than the Portuguese in Europe. Our problem is not the quality of policy. We are not perfect. We have to improve. But if we don't change the rules, we will not solve any real problem.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Well, we'll finish now. I'd like to thank to all our participants here very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Mark, for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, Professor, and invite you to be in the afternoon to listen to who really knows about healing, which are the specialists in medicine. Thank you.